Christmas and holidays. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. I know I did. I enjoyed being with little Nola Ray and her Puerto Rican grandparents. That was nice. It's very interesting because obviously right before the holiday, the jury in the Michael Bryant trial turned in a verdict. I think a lot of people were holding their breath waiting for that verdict. I know I count myself one of them. I think that traditionally we haven't seen things like that. And I was exuberant. And I share the joy of the family and all of the people who've been affected by it. Of course, racism tried to rear its ugly head, not only in in the trying, during the case itself, selection of the jury. So all those things made me, and I'm sure a few other people, very nervous about the potential outcome. But justice did prevail. All of those men, even if they hadn't been convicted here, will go to the federal court system. I don't think those men will ever see the outside of a jail again. And so people are saying justice is done. But was it? Let us not forget how we came here. On February 23rd of last year, that young man, Ahmaud Arbery, was murdered by 3 men. 3 men. He was murdered by them. And there were district attorneys, at least 2 of them, who saw exactly what that jury saw and said nothing to see here. There were at least 2 district attorneys, one who wrote a letter, one who's going to be on trial in February for obstruction of justice and the dereliction of duties. She'll be on trial in February, and I think it's equally as important as that she get convicted. I don't even know what her defense would be. If 12 people saw the same thing she saw and turned in a verdict before Thanksgiving, before they actually got lunch, then that tells you that either she was either complicit or obtuse. And either one of those things does not serve justice. So how can justice be served when 2 prosecutors looked at that case, look at the same thing that jury saw, look at the whole same thing that the country saw, and said, this is nothing to see here. As a matter of fact, the second prosecutor wrote a letter that you can now see is in the public record. It basically was saying that their defense, he basically bought into it. The entire police department said this. As a matter of fact, the only reason that we are here is because the original defense attorneys for the McMichaels went to a radio station and showed them that radio station with the hopes that it would exonerate his clients. Now, why wouldn't he believe that? Because every other law official he showed it to said exactly the same thing he thought. 2 prosecutors said the same thing. All the police that came said the same thing. It wasn't until the rest of the country saw it that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation came on the scene, and then the trial got prosecuted. It would not have happened otherwise. And everything about what they initially said is so much different than what came out in the trial, i.e. Michael Brown. Every time we always have to believe it. Almost every time. If you look at every time that we hear the initial accounts by the policeman of something, a secondary pair of eyes, or when we get the broader scope of information, we can see that they lied. They lied. So yes, it was wonderful. I rejoice that they returned the right verdict, but also that is not justice. Because do you believe that really would have happened without overwhelming evidence? It could have been just scientific evidence, and without absent video proof, this doesn't happen. That is not justice. If science and hair and eyewitness accounts are enough to convict people, to convict black people for doing things, it's enough to have people convicted for doing things to black people, including policemen. So I'm ecstatic about it, but I'm wary that it took so long. The line between what we got and what could have happened is so tenuous. If that man, that prosecutor, that defense attorney doesn't believe that he has exonerating evidence and doesn't show it to people and we don't see it, we don't know what would have happened. What Ahmaud Arbery's mother was told is totally different than what happened out of that trial. And it happens over. Elijah McCain, we were told one thing, another thing in actuality. A young man that got killed in Chicago by the police. We were told one thing, another thing happened. In Dallas, we were told one thing, another thing happened. With Botham Jean, we were told one thing, another thing happened. It should not be, we watched Philando Castile, another thing happened. It should not take justice to have it shouldn't take all of these things that have to go right for us to have justice. It shouldn't take somebody turning in evidence or somebody bringing in a new prosecutor or getting a fresh pair of eyes to have justice. I guess the more apt question is, if justice is blind when it comes to black people, why does she always seem to need a video? There's a little note from the GED section. We've got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.